with the weight loss, I ended up running my first mile ever,
Okay.
period. I'd never ran a mile without walking before in my life. And it was an emotional, like I was so emotional
Yeah, of
about it. I
course.
was so
Yeah.
happy about it. And that's kind of how the running happened in that. And then I just was like, well, if I could run 1 mile, I could run two. Well, if I
Okay.
could run two, I could run three, 5K, and then you start setting these goals. So I came home from winter break, and I was with family at a family Christmas party, and my uncle had been running a bunch at the time, and he was like, "We should run a half marathon together." And
Okay.
I was like, "Okay." At this point, the winter time, I'm probably running 5 to 6 to 7 miles at a time, slow and just getting it done and not worried about it, just doing the time. So after winter break, I went back to Mississippi, started school, and I was out running one day and I felt great. And I ran 14 miles in
Wow.
a training
Okay.
run. And I texted him and I was like, I already ran the half. How do you feel about doing a full marathon with me?
Welcome back, everyone, to the People Run podcast. Today's a story that you don't hear often, and it's probably one of the craziest stories I've had on the podcast, or you're just going to hear in general. I have Jeff with me today, who's lost 200 pounds, not just once, but twice. How do you lose 200 pounds twice? For those of you who've been listening, I've lost my own weight, so I'm curious to ask him how he did it twice. And not only did he lose the weight, he's been dabbling in ultra running very successfully, running a lot of ultra. He's an ultra runner. He's a coach. Uh, Without further ado, let's get right into it. Jeff, welcome on board to the People Run podcast, man. Thanks for hopping on. How you doing today?
Man, thanks for having me. Doing well today. Can't complain. Beautiful day
Okay.
out, so it's a good day. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful day out there. Huh? I can see the sun kind of peeking through your window.
Yeah.
Let's jump right into it, man. Like, so you lost 200 pounds, not once, but twice. Walk me through the first one. How'd that come about? Like yourself, I lost the weight. I'm assuming you never thought you were going to lose 200 and then it happens. But what inspired you to go, you know what, I'm going to lose some weight and then eventually for the first time get up to 200 pounds in weight loss?
So, like many people, I struggled with weight throughout my entire life. I was always a big kid. Um, the story I tell frequently on podcasts or to people when they ask this question is I remember vividly weighing in for football when I was a teenager. And I weighed just under 300 pounds, 290 something pounds. It was like probably 14 or 15 years old at that point, and it just continued to rise from there. Never thought, I would always yo-yo, lose some weight here, get in, and then just come back to eating and binge eating and all of the stuff that comes with that, partying through college, everything. And I decided to lose the weight when I met my now ex-wife and met her, and I just decided it was something that I had to do. Um, there's a story that we were at a ropes course with younger family members, and everybody's on the ropes course, and I was just standing there with my dad on the side, 23 years old. Couldn't do that. There's weight restrictions for all of those things, and I was just, like, man, if I don't take care of this, I'm never going to be able to do anything. 10 years from now, I'm going to be on all kinds of medication, thinking about death rather than life, for lack of a better explanation. So that this was July of 2015, I went on my first walk where my parents live, which is in the Adirondacks of upstate New York, in the middle of nowhere. We went on this walk, and the first mile was all uphill. And I remember how
Oof.
awful I felt. And we stopped so many times and ended up walking like 3 miles, which was great. For anybody who has followed me or doesn't follow me, I'm an all or nothing type of person. So I was like, all in, let's just go walk this walk. And then so I, started doing some research, just really eating uh, clean, for lack of a better term, and drinking like 2 gallons of water a day. That's what, everybody's like, you got to drink a ton of water.
Yeah.
So at that point, about a month later, I was getting ready to move. I had finished my bachelor's degree. I was moving down south to Mississippi, where I spent 5 years doing my graduate work. And I ended up thinking to myself, well, nobody knows me down here.
Yeah.
Nobody knows me as this party guy who hosted all these crazy house parties through college with all the drinking and all the partying and all this stuff. And I found it as an opportunity to reinvent myself. So one of
Okay.
the first things I did when I moved there is I got a gym membership to Crunch Fitness, which was up the road, and my non-negotiable was going to the gym and doing 60 minutes of cardio every single day, no matter what. I ended up losing the first 100 pounds between July and the beginning of October,
Okay.
and then I rolled through there. The walking started interval training, 30 seconds of running and 30 seconds of walking. I would just do 30-30s because it's very digestible
Yeah.
for an hour. And then in that time, I ended up with the weight loss. I ended up running my first mile ever. Period. I'd never ran a mile without walking before in my life. And it was an emotional, like I was so emotional
Yeah.
about it. I
Sure.
was so
Yeah.
happy about it. And that's kind of how the running happened in that. And then I just was like, well, if I could run 1 mile, I could run two. Well, if I could run two, I could run three, 5K, and then you start setting these goals. So I came home from winter break, and I was with family at a family Christmas party, and my uncle had been running a bunch at the time, and he was like, "We should run a half marathon together." And
Okay.
I was like, "Okay." At this point, the winter time, I'm probably running 5 to 6 to 7 miles at a time, slow and just getting it done and not worried about it, just doing the time. And I was like, okay. So after winter break, I went back to Mississippi, started school, and I was out running one day and I felt great. And I ran 14 miles in
Wow.
a
Okay.
training run. And I texted him and I was like, I already ran the half. How do you feel about doing a full marathon with me? And
Oh.
we'll do Buffalo, New York Marathon in the end of May. Blah 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 blah. Everything says you need 16 to 20 weeks or whatever it is to do this, and he was like, I'm in. So over the course of that year, as we got ready for the marathon, the beginning of May rolled around, and I had lost. I know I was weighing around 220 to 225
Yeah.
at the start of the marathon, and at my heaviest, I was well over 450, 460 pounds. So over that course of that 10 months, I had lost probably 210 to 220 pounds
That's wild, man.
um, through running, and then also through severe calorie restriction, which we could
Yes.
get into because there's no real way to lose that amount of weight without a crazy
You know,
deficit. So, yeah.
that's something I want to dabble in and ask you for sure. Cause like in my weight loss journey, right? When I think of the time when you started 2015, trying to remember the year I started, but what I'm getting at is there wasn't, I'll speak for myself. Maybe you have similar. There wasn't like a lot of social media at the time. There wasn't like, hey, here's 20 different diets and here's this influencer showing you, guiding you the way, or the stories weren't out there. Like, hey, this person lost 200, this person lost 100. You would kind of just go on the internet or figure stuff out on the fly, right? And you mentioned that like severe calorie restriction. I could definitely relate to that because I was just trying to eat clean. I had no
Mhm.
idea at the time about macros and protein, and I just eliminated, right? Like a lot of bad foods and kept that. What I didn't realize till very, very later on that I was eating also very lightly in calories till like a lot of weight had gone. Cause at that point your body caught up with, okay, you need a little bit more fuel, but we don't know any better, right? We're on the journey. So, what was that like for you? Like, what did you eat during that 10-month period? What did you look up that went, okay, this is my quote unquote diet?
Didn't really look anything up.
Okay.
I started getting into you. That's when my obsession for YouTube came, where I still love YouTube, and I just started watching every running documentary that I could for
Okay.
motivation. And then the eating side of it, it was I'm a I'm big on habits, and like I'm a
Yes.
creature of habit, and so I ate pretty much the same thing every single day. So I would rarely eat breakfast. So I was intermittent
Okay.
fasting before it was a thing. Like before I knew it
Yeah.
was a thing, before you hear all of these, now we hear it everywhere. And then I would eat lunch. We had a Subway
Okay.
right
Yeah.
on right on campus and right behind the School of Music. And so I would go over to Subway and I'd get a 6-inch flatbread, turkey, whatever, with mustard. I learned about condiments and drink, like not consuming your calories in dressings and
And
beverages.
drink and
That was
stuff.
a
Yeah.
big thing for me that I made the change. So I would do that, the 6-inch turkey loaded down with veggies, and then I would do the apple slices, and I would do a Diet Coke. And I love Diet Coke. I don't. People say whatever they want, but I love it. And so I would do that, and then for dinner I would do um, like chicken, rice,
Yeah.
that type of thing, and that was pretty much it. So I was honestly, whew, for the better part of 8+ months, I was eating probably 1,200 to 1,400 calories a day,
Wow. Okay.
and never fluctuating,
Yeah.
rarely fluctuating. So, and for anybody who knows, that's just not enough to sustain, especially if you're training.
Any
If you're
grown
training,
adult.
yeah, even if you're not training, it's still not really
Yeah.
enough. And so, I learned a lot of lessons, especially through training. And like, I was out for a long run and I ended up passing out on the side of the trail
Wow. Okay.
because I was underfueled and I didn't know anything about intra fueling for these runs or anything, or carb loading or anything like that. I had no idea what I was doing. And so from there, after that happened, I was like, okay, I need to up, I
Yeah.
need to increase here. But for my, my goal is just like, I wanted to see 7 pounds a week come off. And
I
for
was just gonna
months,
ask
I
you.
was
Okay.
seeing 7 pounds a week come off. And so for weight loss, and I say this to people now that I work with and all types of things, like weight loss itself is rather easy. It's like math. If you know the math, calories in versus calories out, it's going to work for you. It's just a matter of sticking through that. So I just had it dialed in terms of numbers. And so I was getting what I wanted, but it just wasn't a sustainable way to lose weight. So,
Yeah, no, agreed. And I went through the similar process, I think, just back then. And I just now remembered the year because I remember I started a long career path with a certain company for 14 years, like right around when I lost the weight. So I think I lost my weight the year after you because I remember starting this job at the end of like 2016 going into 17. And it was literally the year anniversary of me losing the 150. And to your point, as you're saying this, I'm thinking of just the times. Um, like, yeah, everything was trial and error. Like we didn't know any better, right? There was no like, hey, you should gel on mile whatever. And I didn't start running. Running came later for me, but it was just all I knew was chicken, protein, fruits.
yeah,
Get a
yeah,
lot of veggies. I
yeah.
definitely can relate to the Subway. Subway at the time was like this big ordeal. Like, oh, it's super healthy. This is the place you go to, and man, it was just easy. Like, if
And
I
it
want
was
to feel
cheap.
healthy, and it was cheap. Yeah,
Not
exactly.
anymore, but it was. It was
Well,
once
everything was
actually
cheap back
affordable.
then. Now,
Now it's crazy.
Chipotle is like $20 one bowl nowadays.
I know, yeah. Forget
Uh,
guac. So,
What
yeah.
did I want to ask you because you mentioned the family. I want to pivot to like the year after your first weight loss, right? Because something you said kind of made it similar to mine. Did your family see you through this whole process, or did they see you after? That's what I thought exactly.
Yeah.
So for those listening, not on the video, he's shaking his head, but they saw you. I'm assuming it was the same for me. Like a year, 10 months later, what was the reaction from family? In your case, they saw you, it was this big guy, and then it's like, when did you lose 100, 200? Whenever they saw you,
Yeah.
what was their take?
Um, it was always like, you know what I mean? Shocking.
Yeah.
Because I mean, when you live it with yourself, and especially like now, I deal with this a lot in terms of body image issues, and you
Yeah.
live it with yourself, you don't really see it. And
It's
like, I
so
know people
fragile. Yeah.
talk about it all the time, but it's true. Like, you don't see it. And then, so when people's reactions are that genuine, it's like, oh, wow, okay, this must be, so yeah, it was always like that. I would see them on like breaks, so it was like halfway.
Okay.
So it was like 100, 100 something, and then another 100 something. So
Right.
that was, yeah. but like for my brother, I hadn't seen him. He's in the military,
Yeah.
and then I saw him like post marathon the following summer, and like
Wow.
yeah, so it was oh, it's cool, and it's the people who love you too, so they want
Yeah.
what's best for you, and they know it's best for you. So it was always that's always a good feeling, and then having those conversations and that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, that had to be very emotional, if you will, man. You put in the work already every day. I remember for me, I would only remember like when clothes stopped fitting. Like you would buy a new set of clothes, and then it's like, wait, I just bought this a couple months ago, and it doesn't work. And then you see a friend or family. I joke with people. Mine's kind of been a while ago, but like I used to be able to camouflage and dodge people you don't want to like hang out with no more, because like I went to Dominican Republic, which is where I'm from, for a little bit, for a good 6 months or so while I was losing the weight. Just naturally a vacation that ended up being longer. My parents were retiring, to make a long story short. So I lost like half of the weight over there while I already had lost the first half. So when I came back home to the States in New York, if you were to see me and see the old me, like, and you were like a friend, or unless it was family, they didn't know who I was. I had to literally like look at people and be like, look at my face. They're like, holy crap, who is this? What happened? And I remember I would walk in New York, because I was still in the same place I grew up, and I would walk past people, and some people didn't know. And if I didn't want to interact, I could just keep walking. They didn't know who I was, which was hilarious, man. So that's what inspired me to ask you that question, is like, you don't see people for a while, and even your own family, they're like, is this the same person?
yeah, and really you're
um,
not. Really you're not the same person, you know.
no,
So yeah, so that was that year, and yeah, that and I ran Buffalo Marathon. That was my first
that's
marathon,
amazing.
and so it's kind of like a cool bow to put on that
Of
part of the
course, yeah.
story.
What was that experience like for you, running the Buffalo Marathon? The first one, again, we're talking about emotions. You lose all this weight, then you do another lifetime achievement, if you will, and go run a marathon, 26.2. Like, I can only imagine crossing that finish line thinking like, hey, my name is Jeff, and I'm no longer the old Jeff from 2 years ago. Like, I'm a different person entirely, and you just prove it to yourself, you know?
Yeah, the experience was good until it got really hot that year. It was like
Oh, okay.
record-setting heat, and it was like in the 90s. And
Nice.
anybody who runs knows that that's not great. So we got into Delaware Park in Buffalo, and it's just all exposed, like mile 18, and it was just like a slugfest from there on out. So I learned a lot about running, and electrolytes. Had no idea what electrolytes were before that. Again, just I trained for it. It wasn't that I was undertrained. I just didn't know anything about fueling. But we finished, and that's all I cared about. I didn't care about anything else, and yeah, we finished, and it was great. It was an awesome experience.
That's amazing. To go through the weight loss, run the marathon, run a hot one, right? And it still didn't deter you, because we'll get into your running in a bit, but the man continues to run after. So to have your first one be so hot, man, did the transformation just drive you like, man, I'm not stopping. If I have to walk all through this, I'm just going to go through it?
Yeah, I didn't. There was never a question in terms of like pulling the plug or anything like that. I mean, we're still. It wasn't any. I don't think it was anything great. Like it was over 5 hours, but it was whatever. We walked a bunch. The last 5K was good though because we came back to life with via
There you go.
bananas and Gatorade. So no, there was never a question, especially
Yeah,
about like what that year had imposed, like the challenges that have been brought to me throughout that
yeah, of
year. There
course.
was like, you know, so.
But by then you're probably so mentally strong, just up there, just going through everything you go through. I'll ask you in a bit here, but there's definitely some mental challenges. Maybe you can relate for sure when you go through that transformation. To use the Goggins quote, your mind was callous beyond
Yeah.
callous by then.
Yeah, yeah, I
Um,
think so.
Walk me through the second time. So how does that come about? You lose 200 something pounds, and then here we are, go back again. You got to re-lose it. Like, you gained the weight back. What was that? What happened there?
Old habits die hard. So, we- like I said, I moved down south. I was in Mississippi,
Hmm.
and At that point, I was coming into the final year of my master's degree and needed to make a decision about what I wanted to do. And I ended up choosing to stay and continue my doctoral studies.
Okay.
And with that, obviously, comes a lot more coursework. Um, and then on top of it, you're trying to build a resume to get out into the real world of music, which, like, teaching, my goal was to teach university level music. That was my goal, which is a very competitive place to be. And
Hmm.
so, as I said before, I'm an all or nothing type of person. So my focus shifted to that
Yeah.
again, 110%. And I just, yeah, I stopped, really training and running, and I would do it here and there again. And then the weight just came back, like it can just, it can just happen if you lose
Yeah, of
focus.
course.
Like if you've built up years and years and years of bad habits. And so that one day turned into two, turned into three.
Yeah.
And so um, over the course of the next 4 years, I had, yeah, by the time we moved to Pennsylvania where I am now, I was probably close to 400 pounds again.
Got it.
So, yeah, if not a little bit more than that. So,
Yeah, no, that makes sense. You put all your energy into schooling and
hmm
following a passion. How did you? I guess you had some confidence though this time around that you can lose the weight again. Is that how that happened?
yeah, I think so, but that's also ignorance and arrogance too, where you're just kept making excuses. I just kept making excuses, and the only way to get to be that fat is to make excuses. And so I just continued to make excuses, man. Like, oh, I lost it once, I could lose it again.
Yeah.
Oh, and then it just never happened. And then, so COVID shut the world down in 2020. We moved to Pennsylvania, and I was just super depressed
Got
and laying in bed trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my life and all of this stuff.
yeah.
And I would say 2021 more so, that first year I sulked and whatever and continued to make excuses. And then 2021, I really was like, I need to get my shit back together.
Yep.
And so I just was like, I need to start running again. I started working with a personal trainer for the first time ever in July of that year. And I guess July is just the time for
The
me.
time
I
when
don't
you
know.
start,
Yeah,
right?
I guess so. And now thinking about that. And and it was good, and we were doing a bunch of weightlifting and that kind of stuff, which was great. And he kind of helped jumpstart me back on that path. And I was like, man, I just really miss running. And like,
Okay.
so I started from ground zero again, from zero, and just started running and started training. I was working at a resort up here in the Poconos that I had free access to the gym when
Awesome.
I
Yep.
finished. So that's kind of that's where I found my newfound passion for treadmill training, I guess, because that's just what I do now for the most part. And so I started training, I started running again, and I just set another audacious goal. There's a running festival here called the Two Rivers Running Festival. It's on right down the road from the Delaware River, beautiful spot. And they do a weekend of running, so 5K, 10K, half, full, 2 days in a row.
Wow. Okay.
And so I told my family at that point that I was like, I'm gonna do the double. And they were like, okay. And so I registered. There's an option to register for the double. They give you a discounted price. You get two medals, all that stuff. So I just started training, and I gave myself 14, 12 or 14 weeks to train. In March of 2022, I ran back-to-back marathons, one on Saturday and one on Sunday. And that kind of just like
Jeez.
sparked that trajectory again, but this time doing it in a more sustainable way, like understanding that it's going to take time, like probably did a lot of damage to my body the first time losing the
Of course.
weight the
Yep.
way I did, and losing muscle, and it really does mess with like your hormones and stuff too. Like losing weight like that, I found, and your metabolism. So like learning my way through that and like what I needed to do and what works. And I just been on that like path of just continuing to lose the weight over the now it's been what 3 years since then, and just like not allowing the weight loss to define me, but also knowing that I could still go out and run and, bigger guy, blah, blah, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Moving is moving, and just kind of taking a different approach to it. So yeah, that's kind of how that happened. And then I just continued to sign up for races and do these like hard things, and um, started a coaching company in 2022 shortly thereafter, and have been coaching people successfully for the last 3 years now. And that's been awesome because I never thought I was going to do that, but it's kind of
Yeah.
funny being a former teacher. It's like very similar in helping people. And so, yeah, so I ran that. I was probably still right around 300 pounds when I did the 2 marathons in 2 days too.
That's
So
insane, man. One, because you did it, you lost the weight twice, and also, being able to relate, like when you run, like for example, when I was losing my weight, I started walk running. I thought I could run, and the life lessons, the real teacher. And my shins were just so in pain that I couldn't do it back to back. Like I would have to take a day off, and I learned it by trial and error. I would try to walk run. So I started walking, walk turned into walk running, et cetera, et cetera. I started with lifting first, but the first foray was at a local park. Mine was I just happened to be Prospect Park. I lived near it, and that's kind of why. And you mentioned you did 3 miles. I went half around the park. I lived there for 20 plus years at this time, and I had no idea because I wasn't active that park loops. And I'm so far into the park that I'm like, man, I don't know if I can turn back because I'm already afraid of 20 minutes, right? 20 minutes felt so daunting back then to turn back. So I was like, I'm gonna just keep going the park. And that's how I found out it looped. But I say that to say, man, for you to run 26.2 back to back, 300 pounds, like for those, like that's really hard to move. Like I'm sure you had some muscle from building running, but you also have some of the weight. Like that's very hard for those who, maybe you're a big guy, you lift or lady, but it's a lot to move that way, and then to do it back to back, man, that's drive, talent, and man, amazing to you to be able to do that.
that was my first like dabble into like ultra
Yeah, you
running.
essentially did one.
Yeah, I mean, it essentially is, right? It's just like staged differently. I think it's harder to do that because you go home and you snuggle in bed and you get comfortable, and then you have to wake up when your alarm goes off and go do it again the next morning. It's
Exactly.
like, so where it's like you lose the momentum and then you have to go do it again. So,
Yeah, you
uh,
essentially shut down like your adrenaline, you get sleep, the body starts doing its thing to recover, and then you're like, no, psych. Let's go
exactly.
again.
Yeah. So.
What did you find when you look back, what's been harder, like the physical side or the mental side of losing the weight twice?
Definitely the mental side. I struggle with that. And anytime that lifes and it gets hard, it's like always want to hide and go back to, and yeah, and I've been really digging into the mental health side of things for myself this
Yeah,
year, and being
awesome.
open about it as a almost 35-year-old man. And Um, this year has been the most challenging year of my life. Got divorced, living on my own, and then kind of I stopped training again last year. I ran a bunch of races last year, and then as things happen and those conversations start to happen in your relationship, you're focused on that. And I was focused on that. I had just started a new job on top of it, and I was focused on that, and I just stopped running. So I pretty much didn't run from November until February of this year. So
Yeah,
again, starting over and doing that, and just really digging into the long-term mindset of like how to not allow myself to get to that point again where you just kind of stop and then you have to start over because now, and just continue with momentum.
No, I get that. One of the things you said is obviously you're doing it, and I feel it's the key is those habits, right? You mentioned turning those bad habits into good. Um, you're on the path of the good, right? Because now you've done it twice, and you bounce back from that. You're running again in a shorter gap than last time, if you will.
Yeah, yeah,
And so the good habits is taking over. If I could draw here over the other
yeah,
side,
definitely.
um,
Yeah.
and that's
So,
what happens. You get that momentum, man, and you're crushing it. We'll talk about some running here in a sec, but like that side is definitely taking over. Uh, you know, what have you faced with I figured we talk a little bit about this because I used to a lot more as well. But you mentioned body image. Like, what have you experienced after losing the weight, and probably even currently now, where you probably still think about it? I know every now and then I still do, to be honest and transparent. Uh,
all the time, all the time for me. Still, I mean, I'm still a bigger guy. I'm still 200 and probably 245 to 255, somewhere in that range. I don't have a scale in my apartment because of my fixation with the numbers and like I said about the story and that kind of stuff.
yeah,
So I base all of my weight loss off of like my fitness and then what you were talking about, like clothing. Like you could tell in your clothing, and that's been a good thing for me too. It's just kind of getting away from that. But the body image issues is some days you look at yourself and you're like, oh yeah, I feel good, and then other days you look at yourself and you're like, oh no, or what's the quote? Comparison is the thief of joy. So like you're lining up at these races or these things and you see these people and you're like, I don't look like these people. And you start to have that conversation and
okay,
you have that conversation with yourself and it's like the biggest thing for me this year has just been like the confidence side of it. Like it doesn't
yeah.
matter. Like I've proved to myself over and over and over again that I'm strong enough that I can do whatever I put my mind to. You know what I mean? In terms of running, in terms of battling, whatever the pain is or whatever it is, and it doesn't matter, like if somebody's 160 pounds or you're 240 pounds or 300 pounds or whatever it is moving, and that's kind of a lesson that I live by and I coach by, and it's easy to get caught up now because, like we were saying, the social media, for all the good that social media is, there's a ton of bad where you just see and you're comparing, like, oh, well, this person ran 100 miles in 20 hours or whatever it is. And you have this expectation, but you have to remember that you are you. That's been a big thing for me. Is just like it doesn't matter what anybody else is doing. It doesn't matter if somebody thinks that running on the treadmill for all these miles is not as beneficial. For running is running is running and walk running and all of this stuff. Whatever your plan is, whatever your trajectory is, it's all the same. It doesn't matter what anybody else believes or what anybody else is doing, as long as you're doing it. That's kind of the body image issue route I've taken for myself. It's like I know I'm moving in the good direction. Like my workout today tells me I'm moving in a good direction. I wouldn't be running these paces if I wasn't moving in the positive direction, or my clothes fitting a certain way, or fitting into new button downs for work that I wasn't able to fit into at the beginning of the year, and all of these things. Um, I think that for anybody listening and who's trying to lose weight, just weigh your non-scale victories more than anything else
Yeah,
if
of
you're
course.
using a scale. So,
Man,
yeah,
I couldn't have said it any better there than everything you just shared, right? And I think it's something you said very early on as we started this. It's basically like not being defined by it and just working day in and day out, the habits, the process. Uh, it's kind of hard to, what I like to say is, ignore the noise nowadays, but you have to in order for the goal, right? You got social media as well. You're posting out there and sharing your story. Uh, at the end of the day, the body just knows you're working, right? The heart rate
yeah,
goes up and down.
exactly. Yeah,
you know
true.
so no, that's amazing, man. And like Jeff said, for those listening, man, just take those small wins and use that as your measure of success. One thing I found for myself is nowadays, for quite a time now, I kind of detach myself from outcomes, if you will, which kind of sounds crazy in this day and age, but it's kind of like people love to talk discipline nowadays, talking about social media and Instagram and all that fun stuff. Discipline is great. And to me, it is the answer. But when you delve deeper, it's, we can probably talk about this even on the weight loss, is like, it's the habits, the processes you do, right? So like, if you want to lose weight, what's in your fridge, how close is your gym? I think one thing that worked for you, which when I like talk to people, is like, hey, make it easy, right? You had the gym with work, boom, that's going to make less chances that you don't go to the gym because your gym just happens to be right there. So the process, right? And if you show up 3-4 times a week, that's process versus, oh, I want to lose 40-50 pounds. That's going to take some time, but
Yeah.
focus on the process.
Yes. Yeah. And I have those conversations frequently with people who I want to run a marathon.
Yep.
Okay, great. I love it. You know what I mean? But then they start setting these goals, and it's like, well, what have you done before? Or, what's the process again looked like before to you? Like, because we look at people's Instagrams or YouTube and they're just going and throwing down marathons all the time. It's like, but you don't see anything before that, what they've done. And so I think that the running boom is amazing. I love it that people are out there and they're doing this. And so many people running Marine Corps marathon that I knew today and like all of this stuff. I'm like, this is amazing. But just getting through a marathon in itself, it's almost like we've lost the respect for that distance. And, I just coached somebody through their first marathon at Chicago. And she was just disappointed because like it got warm and those types of things, those factors that you can't control, and it is what it is. But it's like you just finished your first marathon. It doesn't matter if it was 5+ hours or whatever the time is. And so I think it's a dangerous place to be too, where you forget about where we don't reflect on the journey and it's all about the outcome. And so I was thinking about this over the last couple of weeks because I set this goal to finally run 100 miles this year, and it didn't happen. Again, third time, it didn't happen. Again, there was factors that went into that and all of these things, but like I felt disappointed for some time. And I was disappointed, and then I reflected. I was like, and it happened so fast. Like I was disappointed in the middle of the night because you see your goal slipping further and further away. And it's easy to be like, oh man, and you get down on yourself. And then as the sun came up and like all of these things, and I was just like, 500-pound Jeff could have never
Exactly.
imagined moving for 24 hours. And now you're mad that you didn't get to the cutoff to run 100 miles. It's like, no, I'm still better than I was. And like just that journey of a decade now.
Yeah.
This whole journey of a decade and these ups and downs and these undulations and all of these things are, yeah, take some time to reflect and then set the new goal and just keep hammering forward, keep pushing forward, So, yeah, that's how I feel about that a little bit.
No, wholeheartedly agree, man. I mean, that could be a whole different show podcast in itself.
Yeah,
Or, one, the distance, and how people feel like disappointed and outcomes. It's, some people do their best to share it and whatnot, but that's a whole rabbit, and it's a rabbit
yeah,
hole in itself. But
yeah.
let's talk about that 100 miler
Sure.
attempt. That was very recent. So you went for
Mhm.
a 100 mile race, which is still
Yep,
a goal of yours.
it
Um,
is.
I think you defined it as 24 hours of pain. Walk me through what the
Almost.
oh, you're
Oh,
able to
man.
reflect later on and look up to it, and you're gonna still go for it. But what was that like? To line up. Hey, man, 5 years ago, Jeff wouldn't have done. Now I'm here at the start line, and it didn't go to plan. But walk me through what that was like, and seeing the sunrise and all that fun stuff.
Sure. So you set the goal, you go out for the goal, and then life just has different plans for you. The day has different plans for you. And the weather wasn't ideal, so it was raining a little bit, and then it was humid, and so you're sweating a lot and all of this stuff. And so probably about 4 hours into the race, I started feeling my first blisters on my feet happening. And so we started taking care of those, doing what we can, tape up the feet, all of that stuff that happens in running in general. And then around the marathon 50K, my piriformis muscle in my left hip started bothering me. And then later on, it just started seizing. So it was like the combination of those two things just really slowed down the day, and lots of time stretching the hip out, fixing the feet, changing socks, changing shoes, all of this stuff. And then yeah, so I mean, it was essentially, I think it's probably 16 hours of just like painful running and blisters and hip muscle that was seizing in the middle of the night. So we'd have to stop, gun it, stretch it out. And some loops were getting 20, 25, 30 minutes. And it's just part of the game. It's part of the process, like we're talking about, of sometimes you just you can only do what you can only do. And I will tell you that I did want to quit. I was like, I'm over this. It was like 43, 44 miles into this endeavor, and time is probably out the window at this point. And I'm like sitting in the chair sulking, and my coach was he was just like, I understand, but I'm not. We don't quit in the chair. And that's what he said to
Yeah,
me. We don't quit in the chair. And
I
like you
like
just
that.
move until you can't move anymore. And like I'm grateful for him for that, because I would have quit. I know I would have. I would have just stopped because the goal was out the window, and I didn't. And that was probably 9 p.m.
Okay.
at 9 p.m. at night, and you have to go in another 12 hours in that mindset. And so we just didn't quit. Just kept doing what we were doing, and stretching and eating and all of the stuff that comes with ultra running, and was able to run a little bit here and there. And then by the time 2 or 3 a.m. came around, I just couldn't run anymore. So I just walked as much as I could, as hard as I could, and then was able to just kind of reflect and just be like, this is the first time that I'm moving for 24 hours. The sun's going to come up. I got to see the sun come up, and just like was super grateful for this year as a whole. Like I said, it was a really tough year for me. And so it was kind of a cool experience. Like, I'm not going to let this define me. We're going to move. And my parents were there. It was amazing. The sun came up, and I was grateful for that, and all of just another day. Like, you're grateful for another day, and just kind of taking a gratitude approach to it, which I honestly have been horrible about. We get so goal driven, and I'm a driven person. I'm determined, and all of these things. But sometimes we forget just to be grateful that we're able to do these things. And so, yeah, the goal didn't come to fruition, but I know that it will, because I'm moving in the right direction. All of the runs and leading up to it were good, and telling and all of that stuff. So yeah.
Two things I want to delve into that. First and foremost, you said during the race, coach goes, "Hey, we don't quit in the chair." You run essentially a whole nother 8+ hours. You see the sunrise, the whole nine works. Like, I've run fulls. I've never done ultra. And for those listening, some have run ultras. We've had ultra people on here. Some run marathons. Hell, even a 5, 10K, right? Like, there comes a point in every race where the mental kicks in and you're like, why am I doing this? Should I continue? Do I stop? But you're in the ultra is what I'm getting at. You're 16, 20 hours in. Like, how are you able to reflect in that moment? You're way past the mental and pain cave and the wall. Like, you're deep in it, where like willpower comes way down, and the mental, just you're fatigued. The body is stressed to probably new heights, right? Because it's the first 100. What do you attribute that to be able to still 20+ hours sunrise coming in to still think of, because coach said that at mile 40 something.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. I don't know specifically what that moment was or why. Other than, like I could still walk.
Okay.
So if I can still walk, we're gonna walk, um, and there's just lessons to be learned. And again, just being like, I was just thinking, you just have a lot of time to think. All of my headphones were dead at this point, pretty much. We're like charging my phone, so you're just running loops, and you're just like, you have all of this time to reflect. And I just wanted to think about like, I was just thinking about how um, far I've come. And it was honestly the first time that I've been in that headspace where I was like, it wasn't a negative place. Sometimes it's a negative place that you're digging this out of, and I just didn't want it to be a negative experience. And so I was just like, well, I'm still able to walk. We started walking. That's how I started this whole journey. And so this is crazy that I'm 60 something miles into this and I'm still able to walk. Yeah, it's not, it wasn't the goal, but it's like this is still
You're still
amazing.
moving,
And
yeah.
so and like earlier this year, I had a great experience where I ran, an event, and so I know it's there too. So that's like that pushed me through too. I'm like, oh, it just the it wasn't the day, and so yeah. But that's kind of
Man,
where
it
I'm
sounds
at.
like a cool moment.
Yeah.
You're deep in the race, and instead of being clouded by like wrong thoughts, like it just came to you, like, man, how far you've come, and the gratitude. That's an amazing feeling. Sometimes races go that way. You're deep in it, may not go your way, and like all the good feelings come out. Is we want that all the time, right? It just happened to happen for you on that day. What was having the family like there for meant to you? I'm sure you had a crew, right? It's an ultra. You got to have a crew and support, family, friends. Rough year, and you're doing this endeavor for 100 mile. What was the support like? What's it been? Even now you're running a lot, doing a lot of ultras, having family and friends there.
Oh, it's everything. I was very excited for my parents to come down. They'd spent like 5 hours in the car to get there, and um,
Nice.
and when you go through these massive life changes, weight loss, divorce, changing careers, all of this stuff, like those are the people who are always with you. And so
Yes.
like I feel like this year in particular, they've been on this journey with me because I've talked to them more than anybody else.
Yeah.
I call my mom every single day, and so like you're sharing that experience of like, oh, we got through this year. And so and just like seeing them sitting there like they're the ones responsible for you. And so they're sitting under this tent, and every time you come around, like they see that you're in pain and agony and all of this stuff, and you're just like, no, like in a way, you're doing, in a way, sometimes I'm thinking about doing it for them, like, you know what I mean, and that kind of thing. So, super, super grateful for them. A couple, other people that I knew were there, and so it was a good experience, like a positive experience in general. To have those types of people, it's always good to have people who love you around when you're doing hard things too, because um, that just that seeing them and feeling them and all of those things is going to help. It can help to push you along too.
No, for sure. That's awesome, man. Sounds like a great time, family and friends and showing up. Parents were probably like, "What's he doing?" But but they're also proud of you at the
Yeah,
same time.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you've dabbled in ultras for quite a while now, right? You've done several races. What has been some of your favorite races you've done so far?
Oh, I like the timed races. So I've done a few 12-hour races because it's just you versus you. So if for any, I also for anybody who's looking to jump into ultra running, I would highly recommend that, like 6 hour, 12 hours, something like that, because again, you, it's just about what you can do and what you want to do. There is no distance. Myself, I prefer training to time. rather than
Okay.
distance,
Yeah.
because sometimes it just gets very overwhelming to think, oh my God, I got to go run 20 miles. And you're like, oh, I feel this way 5 miles in, and I still have to do 15 more rather than, oh, I'm going to go run for 3 hours. And you can kind of chunk up and you can break up that time a little bit differently in your mind, almost, if that makes sense. It's a little bit, to me, anyways, it's a little bit less nerve wracking, So, yeah, I've done a few 12-hour races. I did 12 hours on the treadmill in June for Big Brothers Big Sisters, so a fundraiser for local Big Brothers Big Sisters. And so the time thing again. I've done a couple 50Ks and stuff like that as well. And yeah, I don't, not too many, but I hopefully I think in the next year I'll probably start doing some more like events or like going traveling maybe to some races and doing stuff like that. But yeah, but 12 hours is always like I enjoy that for the most part. So, and the one in June went really, really well. I was working, my coach who I was talking about was actually Dan Marchese, who was on your podcast, and he's been amazing this year, and helped me immensely, just digging me out of everything that I was dealing with and really helping me restructure everything and successfully. And yeah, that was a huge PR day for me. So like I know that I have it in me to get this done, and that's what I'm really looking forward to, is getting it done.
So
So
you're all in the ultra.
yeah, yeah, I am. But I mean, I love marathons too. So
Yeah.
yeah, and
What is it about the time, since time's your favorite? What is it you like, the challenge of, hey, I'm gonna go for 12 hours?
yeah, and I think it's just like we were talking about before. It's just more about it's more personal almost when there's just an open-ended amount of time. Um, it becomes more personal. It becomes more about what you set out to do rather than what anybody else is doing. So, like what we are talking about before, like the sub 3 hour marathon benchmark, or 2:55 now because that's what Boston is, right? It's like everybody's trying to do that, and it becomes this thing versus like you lose the personal side of running, almost.
Yeah.
If you're everybody's chasing this goal, this distance, this
Way to put
time,
it. Yeah.
and instead you're like, no, I'm just going to go, I think I could run 50 miles in 12 hours. You know what I mean? Or whatever it is, or 100K, or whatever that goal is. And if you want to set that goal, if not, then you just go out and you go do what you're like, I'm going to run further than I ever have anyways. So it just becomes a little bit more personal, to me anyway. So.
No, I can see that based off of everything you shared. I like how you put that there. Boston, you're going for a 2:55, and you're doing it essentially for the Boston so that you can claim you're doing Boston, versus like technically a PR stands for personal record,
Hmm.
right? Does it stand for Boston record? Uh,
Yeah.
it doesn't stand for like, it's exciting. I'm one of the people that want to do a major, but it's important
Absolutely.
to do it for your own personal benefit, joy, and your actual personal record.
Yeah. Exactly.
Um, I want to ask you, so you got these races. For those listening, you shared already. You had the 100, and you got close, but we still have that target of wanting to hit 100. You're doing 100 on a treadmill coming up here. How's the training look like now that you're more experienced, and how's the nutrition also looking like now that you're also more experienced and also a coach?
So training wise specifically, like moving in, you mean over the next couple of months towards this 100-mile
Yeah,
effort, or in
you're training
general?
for an ultra now, and I'm assuming it's
Mhm.
pretty consistent with how you train today in 2025, if you will, and
Yeah.
and eat as well.
Yeah. So training wise, typically running 5, 6 days a week, strength training a couple days a week, 2 to 3 days a week. And then it's honestly not super high volume, but really just getting like those long runs in when they need to happen. So just like periodization in terms of that, in terms of ultra running. And that was something that I was lacking, and I credit that to working with Dan actually,
Yep.
for
Okay.
myself, was that like before, when I was doing these things, I would run anywhere from 7 to 10 miles a day, and then I was doing like back-to-back long runs on the weekend, so 15, 20 mile back-to-backs. And then he shifted me to getting into like the 4 to 6 hour long runs, those longer runs on the weekends. And that helps with the mindset side of things in the ultra running, I think, more so, where you're really learning how to deal with some of these things that are happening and strategize real time. And adjust if you're not feeling the greatest. And then nutrition wise, is ultra running is an eating competition. You got to get a ton of calories in, and you can't be
Yeah.
scared to eat. So being okay with that, as somebody who's lost an immense amount of weight, is a hurdle sometimes too, especially in training, as you're trying to lose weight to be better suited to do these events. So like balancing calorie deficit versus surplus and maintenance and all of these things has been something that I've been focused on. So like usually during the week, I'm in a deficit. And then
Okay.
as we move into the weekend towards these longer efforts, I'll ramp it up and I'll do, more carbs and of
Yeah.
course, picking the right gels, like shoes and socks and all of these things. Gels are very personal too.
Yes. Agreed.
Found so finding a gel that works for you and experimenting with that with enough time, in training, utilizing them in training, and then just not making any changes. And then ultra running, eating real food, eating whole food. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As well as gels and all of that stuff too. So, like the 12-hour we did in June, I was eating McDonald's on the treadmill in Planet Fitness, which I'll do during this 100, because there's a McDonald's right across the parking lot, so it's kind of perfect actually. And so like really getting used to like consuming food while you're moving, and
Yeah.
like practicing that, because your stomach needs to be able to handle all of that stuff too. And so yeah, that's kind of the approach there. Just a more like, I eat to train now
Yep.
more
Okay.
so
Yeah.
than like eating to lose weight, if that makes sense.
Of
So
course. Yeah. It
yeah,
does. Yeah.
so it depends on like how I'm training. So now the next 40, I guess I think it's like 48 days. I have the whole month of December to choose when I want to get this 100 miles done, and you just pick the date and you just do it. It's like a virtual challenge, and they send you the buckle in the mail. And so I picked December 14th. So it's a Sunday, because the gym has to be open for at least 24 hours. So Sunday into
Yep.
Monday. And so I guess over the next 40 something days, I'm just going to ramp up over the next, I'll probably spend 5 weeks building again, and then take a week and a half kind of down
Taper.
taper, and then
Yeah.
get it done. I mean, thankfully, I have a strong base beneath me. I've ran just about 1,500 miles this year, so I have a strong base underneath me in terms of feeling confident. I just want to get a couple more, key long runs in that give me the confidence going into it again. Yeah.
I just want to pause on that because you said, "Hey, I don't really do long runs," and then for the listener, Jeff just said he's had 1,500 miles already.
Just about.
I say that jokingly, but to also cement that the man's got some fitness, obviously, and endurance already, and coming right off training for 100 to into another, obviously, you're going to be able to carry a lot of that good fitness into this one. So, how's the injury coming? The one you had at the 100, like you're all good and healed up
Good.
now?
Yeah, good. I
Oh man,
think that I don't think, I mean, it was rough. I live on the third floor too, and
okay.
our elevator's
Ooh,
broken.
yeah,
So I think it took me all of 5+ minutes to get upstairs, and I didn't leave my apartment for like 2 days. I really just rested, and then it was really painful the first week.
of course, yeah,
But I don't, we definitely weren't like, it was probably on the verge of injury versus like in that realm.
yeah,
Uh, so thankfully, I was able to start running. I started running again on Friday last week, the week of like after, and I ran 3 days. And then like I said, I traveled some this week for work, and then I took the 5 days off this week and just did a couple runs this weekend, and then we'll start back, to full time training this tomorrow.
you know, now that you've kind of got a good lock on training and how you eat and eating to fuel and fitness and weight loss, your strength training now consistently, all that good stuff. I want to ask a kind of joking question. So for me, right, when I lost the weight, there's a couple foods that never left from the bad days. Maybe you have some. So for me, that's ice cream. Do you have any food that you still just like? I'm just still gonna eat this, and because you train so much, it kind of doesn't matter anymore. What stuck from back then to Jeff now?
Um, oh man, there's probably a few things like going home to visit my mom and my dad because my mom's an incredible cook. So there's
There you
foods
go.
like she sent me home with a bunch of she sent me home with so much food from the race. She like basically brought enough food for the entire event.
Yeah,
And so there was foods there, like they're not bad foods, but just like childhood foods.
of course. Yeah,
Her homemade meatballs and chicken and dumpling soup and like that kind of stuff. And then if anything, like if I'm like I love boneless wings.
okay.
So those stay with me, like here and there once a week maybe. Um, Pizza, stuff like that,
Yeah,
that I'm just not scared of it anymore because I know it doesn't define tomorrow, if that makes
yes,
sense.
exactly. No, it does.
So, like for you, you know what I mean? I'm sure you've dealt with that, but for anybody listening, is like that's the biggest takeaway. If you're on a weight loss journey, like going out and having a couple drinks with friends at the bar or whatever you're choosing to do, or eating boneless wings and pizza one night, as long as it doesn't roll into tomorrow, then you're good to go. And allow yourself to feel that and allow yourself to do that because that's real life. And anybody
Yes.
who tells you different is lying to you. So allow those real life, things to enjoy, and then just you get up the next day and you put your shoes on and you go do what you're gonna do because you said you were gonna do it.
No, for sure. You have to, man. And you touched on something there that definitely I can relate to, and for those listening as well, right? I think it's important to have a good when you're first starting out, get a base, get a foundation, good habits. But once you've lost some weight to what Jeff is saying right now, like don't feel guilty about eating that pizza or whatever it is, right? If you've been at it for 8, 9 months straight, you've lost a bunch of weight, you've run a marathon, you've run a 5K, you did something you didn't think you could do, you're gonna be okay that one night. Like Jeff said, it's more when you do it repeatedly for months and on months, and that really hurts you. I mean, one bad pizza, ice cream, whatever it is, drink is not gonna kill you if you're gonna run the next day or vice versa, lift. Touching on that, what's one thing if you could roll the time back, you would tell your older self versus now?
Oh, that's a good question. There's probably a lot of things. I don't know if I would change anything or say anything because it's all part of life's story. And people ask me that question all the time because like I touched on earlier, I went to school for music. I have a doctorate, did a doctoral coursework for music, and now I sell insurance. And so and people ask
That's
me
a
all
lot
the
of people
time,
nowadays.
do you regret, do you have regrets or something? And it's like, no, I don't, because I wouldn't be sitting where I am having this conversation with you if anything was different. And so I'm a firm believer in that. Even through the tough times in life, like there's lessons to be learned. So if anything, I would just say to stay patient to my old self, like stay the course. Um, but again, it would have changed things differently, and I wouldn't be sitting where I am. So
Yeah. On that same note, it might be the same answer, but someone listening to this who's probably in their, let's say, perceived rock bottom right now, they want to go through a weight loss transformation. They've tried 3, 4 times, no luck. Um, they want to get in shape. Maybe it's running, right? If they're listening, it's probably running. It's the People Run podcast.
makes
But
sense.
what would you say to that person, who's just now starting their journey?
Just start. Don't just start and don't look for the easy way out.
Okay.
In a world where there's an answer for everything, it's different for every single person, and there is no easy way to do what you want to do. And so if it's running, left foot, right foot, you start, do intervals, do what you need to do. If it's weight loss, just make one decision. Change this drink to this drink.
Yeah.
Just that one decision and hold on to that for 30 days and then make another adjustment. And you implement these little things over the course of time. And all of a sudden, 6 months from now, a year from now, you're a completely different person. But my biggest thing in the world that we live in today is there is no easy answer. And there is no easy process to take a pill or a shot or whatever it is. Sorry, that's going to help you long term to get to where you
Yeah.
want to go. And I'm a firm believer in that because I didn't, you know what I mean? And so that's how I feel about that. But yeah, it's meant to be hard. And it's
Yeah.
nobody's fault but our own, right? Nobody else is to blame. Nobody else in my life was to blame for me getting to where I was. So I had to take responsibility for me, and I continually have to take responsibility for me and my actions and my choices in life in general. And then just one day at a time, choose the right things to do, you know? So,
Well said. Couldn't have said it better. Love that. For those listening, take that in. That was an amazing message and direct, if you will, in a good way, right? Jeff, you mentioned the race coming up in December here, but what else is next for you, or you're just focused on the race right now? Do you have some early plans for next year? Could be life, general, running, races.
yeah. So I mean, treadmill is the first thing because it's there, and I set the goal this year to run 100 miles successfully, and I'm not leaving
Oh,
2025 without a buckle. So we're gonna get that buckle, and it's gonna be on the treadmill and Planet Fitness. So people are gonna think that I'm crazy. They already think I'm crazy, anyways, because I go there all the time. So that's fine. Um, but and next year, possibly a 24-hour race in May, April, May, somewhere in there. And then I have a big dream goal of running across the state of New York on the Empire State Trail.
whoa. Okay.
Um, so that's like my long-term like goal. Being from New York, growing up, I was born in Connecticut, but I grew up in upstate New York.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
when I found out that they developed the Empire State Trail from end to end, I was like, that's kind of cool. It's 550 miles, I think, from
Yeah.
end to end, whichever way you choose. I would probably go Buffalo to Manhattan.
Okay.
And I have this goal of running the entire distance, breaking it up, of course, 50 miles a day, something like that. And with the whole crew, the whole thing, and raising money I would like to raise money for childhood obesity awareness through that whole
That's
thing
very
and
cool.
like programs towards that. So just that's one of my long-term thoughts of how to how to get to that point and build to that point. So
No, that's gonna be awesome, man. And I love the charity, for kids and obesity. That's going to be an amazing journey. Also as a fellow New Yorker running through New York, that's going to be fun, seeing it from a different angle. um, Man, I'm looking forward to you getting your buckle here in less than 2 months. Are we 2 months out? What's
no,
today?
it's
Today's
less than
October.
yeah, it's less than 2 months. It's like 49 days if we're counting. I have a countdown on my phone just to
Okay.
make sure.
I'm looking. That buckle's going down in
It's got it.
2025.
It's happening. Yeah, there's no way that it's not. So, no matter what. So,
No, that's awesome. Well, Jeff, man, I want to appreciate you for hopping on the People Run podcast. This story, man, and thank you for sharing. Has been amazing. For
thank you.
those listening, powerful reminder that we can, to use a cliche, do hard things. You can go through it, and it's all about the journey and process. I mean, Jeff would say this, and he has shared it on here. The person he was 5, 10 years ago is a beast monster right now in a good way. That buckle's coming down soon. I'll tag it on here in the notes, but check out Jeffrey's Instagram and see his coming races and everything he's done, man. Jeff, amazing, man. I appreciate you, and looking forward to that next race and those to come,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
2025, 2026, almost there, which is
Almost.
crazy.
Yeah. Awesome.
Hey, everyone. This has been the People Run podcast. wherever you listen to your podcast, we're there. Check us out. Until next time, man.